Well, talk about that world champion in the upper left, in the blue. It's Oliveira.
Oliveira. His opponent in the red, it is Cyan. We're playing for a llama that eats grapes.
Camel. Starving camel.
Camel.
Still
starving.
Yeah, SSLT. Starving camel still, or a starving camel still better than a horse.
Is that the name of the team?
Pretty much. It's a Chinese idiom that I...
Starving camel still better than a horse?
Yeah.
But that's not even a starving camel. It's got grapes in his mouth, which I don't know how you get that in the desert even.
It's a good question. Honestly, I don't know. Yeah, so like it's this idea that, you know, I think that idiom actually technically says that it's like a dead camel is still better than a horse. Because of course, you know, horses are not the greatest pack animals necessarily. They don't do well in arid environments, whatever. But yeah, this is a very happy camel. It's got a cluster of grapes. I could do with a cluster of grapes. That'd be nice.
Ooh, that's big though. You were saying Cyan doesn't do the crazy, but this is the craziest that you can do. And this is where I was saying like something like 2 Hellions or a couple of Reaper openings can punish this pretty hard because it's very difficult to defend from both angles. It's a very wide open natural expansion basically, but let's see if he can trick Oliveira and if Oliveira is going to look to punish or he's going to look to play like the overdog and be like, yeah, actually come at me. I can play just normal from here. Not usually what you want to do against this sort of setup.
No, not really. But, you know, if you can get away with it, if you can go and... Okay, I was going to say, man, if he takes both golds, but that's a hero move, and that's not something we would expect to see on a map like this necessarily. But if you can get away with it, this is how Oliveira lost it. Well, not quite. I think Firefly took that as the gold as the third, but this is how Oliveira lost to Firefly roughly in that series. You get the aggression. Oliveira wasn't able to punish very well, and then, well, tons of zealots on the third base on that timing, and it's really nice for Cyan in this game. He gets a full scout off, sees how much gas has been mined, sees that, yeah, there's no starport just yet. He knows everything that Oliveira is going for, and that is actually, when you're talking about making sure you can defend against this, or defend your gold base, make sure that you're okay there, knowing what's happening, getting a solid scout of the Terran main base is probably the most important thing.
Yeah, gold fingers on Oliveira again. The probe got in. It had no right to. The adept also with an option to get in. Almost chooses to, but instead goes for the SCV as the Marines were shading him, and it's not going to be able to shade away either as the Cyclone does pop up and punishes it. But I mean, a little bit cold fingers or something from Oliveira. Like the first time he didn't raise the supply depot against the probe, which was just wild, right? Because that should be a dead probe. There should be no reason for which Cyan gets a full scout. And this time around, maybe the adept shade you could argue for is it was a little bit of a bait or something of the sorts, but I'm not sure if I buy into that.
Yeah, I don't know. So Cats, we have this 3 additional gateways, so this is going to be 4 gate blink coming on out of Cyan here, and I wonder how you feel about that, because generally when you take a gold base, this is timed out to be more like a zealot focused something, charge lot, because, well, first of all, he hasn't taken the rich gas, and in general, it's a mineral injection, not necessarily a gas injection. But it seems like Cyan wants to turn up the tabs, make this a little hotter, a little bit faster. Even still, the robo is slow as well, so it's not like he's going to have too much of a way to get in. How do you feel about this timing? It feels like it's a little early for the economy that he's developed.
I quite like it because he's looking to defend as well with this, right? So had he been scouted, there's a good chance that Oliveira just applies pressure on his side of the map. He is going to get caught with his pants down, though. Remember, the recall was already used not too long ago, so I don't think it's off of cooldown at the moment. And now with the Cyclones coming from the other end, it means that the Stalkers on the other side of the map are going to have to do a lot for Cyan to even be able to recover this at all. The Cyclones are very good at killing probes now. On the other side, a bunker is going to deflect this aggression easily, and it looks like Oliveira is just going to win straight up off of this. But in theory, I liked it. If those Stalkers were at home, I think he defends this, and you know, he has a pretty good economic lead. But yeah, 3 Stalkers wasted on the other side is just a little too much.
Yeah, losing Stalkers, losing probes. I understand this Cyan is the gold base. That's probably the only thing keeping him in this game, but it's not keeping him in this game. He's down 11 workers. It's not a good position whatsoever. Interference matrix doesn't really matter in this game. There's no robo bay. but interference matrix is done. Tanks are getting added on in now. The fact that this bunker killed multiple stalkers when Blink has done, cats, is honestly, it's unacceptable. That should never ever happen. Stalkers really shouldn't die to a static structure like that. And now there's a second bunker on the way. I don't know that it necessarily completes because, again, stalkers are here now. But once you add that tank in on top of this, I have very little faith in Cyan being able to break through in this game.
Yeah, what happens here to Cyan is just kind of choice paralysis because it's so difficult to go up against what you've decided to do on you know, throughout the game. And in this case, it's like you recalled your probes. So normally the move out of the stalkers would be warranted because you can always recall them back in the worst case scenario. But because you recalled your probes to a goal, that option is no longer available to you. So in truth, you shouldn't have moved out with the stalkers. But by the time he spots Oliveira going into his main, he's already more than halfway through to the map. So when he makes the decision, I'm gonna move forward with these stalkers as we have a little bit more action in the main, versus I'm gonna pull back. It's so difficult to get to the other side, see a bunker, and be like, oh, I guess I'm an idiot. I should have always pulled back, right? Like there was always going to be a bunker there. So then you kind of just want to try to make something happen regardless, even though realistically with 3 stalkers and pressure on your side and against a bunker, it's just not going to be a, you know, it's just not going to be a good trade of actions to get any value there.
Yeah, I think that's, oh, this Stin has to be so careful. It is a little exposed, so this is, I don't know, Cyan's not going to get it. Loses a stalker too. Oh, and the observer as well. That doesn't feel great. We do have to be a little careful though. If we are Oliveira, if we're an Oliveira fan in this game, because Storm is on the way, cats. And this is a 2-base all-in coming out of Cyan. He's got 4 more gateways on the way, just really understanding that there's no world where he goes and survives this game in a macro game. He really is going to have to go all in right now. But the scan from Oliveira is just perfect. He knows that Storm's on the way now. He knows exactly what he has to be worried about. But there's no Ghost Academy, cats. How do you choose to handle this if you're Oliveira? Do you... He's taking the 3rd base.
Yeah, which isn't the worst thing. Even against Storm, he's going to be okay because, you know, you get to spread out more when you take this 3rd base, whereas in your natural, you would be pretty claustrophobic, and then you can land a really good Storm if everything is bunched up, or like we saw in the previous game, like kind of like against SCVs and Marines, the Storm can be effective. So yeah, I don't mind this if you're Oliveira. I think he scans and he sees I got time. I'm plenty ahead, so he's just going to be chilling, whereas Cyan, though, does find, I mean, tries to find something. 6 SCVs is not nothing, but it's not amazing for your Templar value buck.
At least it does go, and it does bring Cyan into a bit of a worker lead. He's got his 3rd base now, although the natural's going to mine out. It's already started to mine out here. Technically, there are 4 mineral patches, but one of those doesn't even count as this arm on the left side has to run away, get recalled out. Nice scan there as well. So the gold base is 3 mineral patches. It doesn't have a lot of money. There's actually the Robo there as well. And oh, the Warp Prism with Templar. One more shot. Oh. That's not what you're looking for, Cyan. He's still got plenty of Storms, though, so it's still a scary army to fight into.
Yeah, but the tanks are already sieged. The first Storm goes down, but yeah, with the tank siege, you don't want to engage into that, much less with the Widow Mine, so it's going to be a slow leapfrog towards this gold base from Oliveira, who has a nice ramp to abuse there at the top. If you're Cyan, you already evacuated most of the probes to the right-hand side of the gold. The Vikings are likely to be targeted down, but one of them survives. And it's difficult to engage into this if you're Cyan. Maybe you just take another base. Is he already taken? Yeah, I guess he can just transfer to this newfound base and maybe be okay and try to stabilize from there. This should be forfeit.
Yeah, what he's really waiting for is for Storm to be done. Or Charge to be done. But very nice feedback there. The Raven almost dies. Certainly gets no value. But yeah, the gold base, good luck holding on to this one. You do want to hold on to it just a little bit longer to make sure you get the Immortal out, but that's a dead Robo, so that doesn't feel all that great. And again, Charge isn't done. We're looking at, I mean, 21 Zealots on the map, cats, and no Charge. That is not an effective army.
Yeah. Now, the bigger problem for Cyan is that Ghosts are now on the way. So the Templars are going to have a clear answer, and still Oliveira with a very hefty supply lead, worker lead, etc. This is slow. Zealots are still just kind of cruising around. Now they have Charge, actually, so maybe that's even worse in some senses. There's going to be a little bit of a run by here, kill a couple of SCVs, but that's going to be literally it, just the 2.
Yeah, meanwhile, Oliveira on the other side, he doesn't have to do anything. He really, overextending yourself is not necessarily... Oh, nice Storms on the backside here. Cyan does pick up part of the army. And honestly, this is a scary position all of a sudden for Oliveira. We talked about how he doesn't have to do all that much. There's, okay, no storms, just feedbacks, but even still here, Oliveira gets swallowed up by this army of Cyan. Targets the medevacs down, gets the ghost as well. Widowmine, well, I guess that's technically the saving brace, but you can just blink right past it here. And this army, all of a sudden, Cyan, he kills it all. Well done by Cyan.
Very well done indeed. I mean, that storm that you were talking about from the back was wonderful. The problem for Cyan is he's still kind of behind, but I mean, he's definitely made this playable, right? Like I did not believe, to be honest. Like when you were saying Oliveira fans, like a few minutes ago, you were like, Oliveira fans, you gotta be careful, blah blah blah. I was like, yeah, what the hell is he talking about? This is done. But now I'm like, whoa, Biomorph can see into the future. Because I mean, now if I'm an Oliveira fan, I'm actually getting a little bit worried. That was a great way to recover so far from Cyan into this game.
Yeah, and even the Widowmine run by, which is cute. I guess walk by, waddle by. But it only gets 3 probes, so it's not that impressive. Although there's no observer here in the cannon. I don't think he's. Nah, okay, there's an observer now. We're fine.
Unless.
Oh yeah, it should go off right. Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, it's good.
It's still not a great position for Cyan. Realistically, Oliveira does lose an army, and that's kind of awkward. But he's able to rebuild one fairly quickly. He's got decent upgrades here. The Vikings go; those are going to be free. Those will fall. But Oliveira's got his 4th base. Planetary halfway done. Cyan technically is a 4-base Protoss, kind of, because he's already mined his 3rd base out. He's got another one. But his true 4th base is also very slow in coming. So Cyan, it's more playable than it was, Cats. But it's still not great. Now, the big deal here, this is double Robo Colossus. If he can get up to like 4 Colossus when the Viking count's still very low, with these upgrades that he has, that does start to feel okay, I think.
Yeah, I mean, if he gets to max, then it's going to be great. If he lands a couple of storms, it's going to be great. The problem is there's so many ghosts, right? So that's going to be the trouble for him. He needs some feedbacks, he needs some storms. A little bit of Raven harassment here from the Raven that was actually on 1 HP from the feedback before. So that's kind of awesome that he just saved it there. Clearly not using F2 too much, the world champ. So that's great that he can get that value out there. And yeah, I mean, 26 still supply the supply gap, but again, a couple of storms will make a whole lot of difference.
And honestly, as we look at this game, you gotta be careful with those stalkers blinking forward. I guess they were trying to get a ghost, but scary. What we have to consider here in this game, Cats, is that by all rights, Cyan should be deader than a Dodo. After that dropped, after he got nothing done, after he lost the gold base, and he's again still
like
not
Dodo the bird.
Yeah, the extinct bird.
I see. I get it. Go on. I'm sorry.
But the fact that he took that fight in the middle of the map and everything else that's happening, again, still not in the great spot, but the fact that he's even in this game at all is honestly pretty impressive. And Oliveira, I part of it speaks to the map, right? Equilibrium is such a big map, it's hard to push into. But Cyan's got his 4 bases now. He's at 170 supply, Cats. He's got 2-2, 3-3 on the way, Colossus, Disruptors. He's built an army that it's not the easiest thing for Oliveira to break.
Yep, but at this point, I mean, it's going to be the breaking point, I guess, where Oliveira has the biggest advantage that he's going to be able to find a feedback and a storm onto a mine for a Templar. So probably not the best trade ever, though he does negate one of the ghosts, but there's a couple more here. So it's going to be EMPs versus storms, and the EMPs obviously have a little bit of an advantage, but the storm can be sneaky. The storm can happen, and if it does, again, it's going to negate all of that supply advantage that is closing in on Oliveira the longer the game goes.
Yeah, certainly. And man, you look at these spellcasters, it's honestly kind of hard to see where the ghosts are, again, considering the ghost energy bar max. These high Templar energy bars on the bottom side, they're all maxed as well. There are a lot of spells that are going to get chucked out here in this next fight. So for now, Oliveira, pressure on the 4th base. Colossus very exposed, but Stalkers blink forward, and they're going to be able to ward that off. Meanwhile, on the bottom right side, feedback storms, but the storms don't really land. Or Cats even still, a couple more storms where that came from. And for now, Cyan is holding on really nicely, defending against this. Stalkers blink forward as well. Ghost takes some damage, and well, Colossus not going to get it. Cyan is really holding on to this. really
That
nicely.
was fantastic, right? Like even though the storms don't land, I mean, look at the amount of units that it took for a defense on the bottom. That made it so that the army of Oliveira at the top couldn't do anything. Like that's the units. That's the army that just deflected. This is like the movie 300. You know, it's like 2 Templars just fended off everything, which is completely wild because you had to be paying attention as well to that flank. You had to be anticipating that your opponent, well, he's a world champion. He's probably gonna do 2-pronged aggression. The army at the top is not big enough, so he's looking for it, and he gets the feedback on the go. So important, so that the storms are not negated, and then the storms can zone off the rest. So even just zoning off things and forcing a big stim are gonna give Cyan a little bit of a shot in this game, though the Colossus are exposed. Good concave here from Oliveira. It's gonna net him a couple of Colossus kills. Good! Oh, disruptor shots as well on the side of Cyan, as the Colossus are attempted at being taken down from the Vikings. For the first time in this game, we had Cyan for a second there, spiking up in supply over his opponent. But it's still a very difficult game for him, right? Like, definitely still advantage Oliveira.
Oh, certainly. But I mean, yeah, I was going to say, maybe it's not, but no, Oliveira has so many bases at this point. Cyan's on 4, Oliveira's on 6. He's got a 7th on the way, but Dark Templar there getting on top of the planetary. Repair is going to be slow. So now Oliveira's on 5 bases. This is not going to last. Yeah, it's not going to last all that much longer. Unfortunately, the missile turret's still around, so some of these Dark Templar will fall. Even still, nice movement on the north side as well. This is 2 bases all of a sudden getting knocked down, and we talked about how Cyan's, he could have gotten that. He could have gotten the command center, but has to be careful. Just wants to go for the recall, wants to make sure he doesn't get caught out in the middle of the map. Even though a couple Light Templar, got to be careful. We talked about how this was really good for Oliveira still. Well, Oliveira just lost 2 bases, Cats. His control of the map shattered just a little bit. Is this... It's not as good for Oliveira as it was 30 seconds ago.
Definitely not. I mean, the magic of the storms, though, is kind of gone as well. Like, there's only, like, I think 3 High Templars, and they don't have that full energy anymore. So we're not going to see those, you know, game-saving storms anymore. And that is a little bit scary because it's Oliveira that's adding complexity onto his army still. I really love the fact that the DTs, when they blinked onto the space, didn't go after the turret, by the way. Like, in my mind, they were going to click the turret and then go after the PF. But I see how that's not the right play against a player as fast as Oliveira, right? Because he's just gonna scan, and then you just wasted attacks onto the turret that gives you more time to react to repair the planetary fortress to bring your army back. So that was brilliantly done from Cyan, just to go back to that moment. That was super cool. And now, I mean, yeah, he doesn't have enough Templars, so there's still some storms. Actually, there's one with full energy as well. So if he can land some of those, there's still hope. Lots of Immortals too, actually. So that's kind of cool too.
Yeah, 19 Marauders against, was this 7 Immortals? That's a powerful army, but Liberators... Oh, that big storm! Those storms are massive, but now Oliveira trying to find the fight on the backside. I don't have a lot of faith there anymore, but the Immortals have no shields whatsoever. Vikings landing on top here. Oliveira thinks he can make it happen. Can he catch with the EMPs as well? This concave, though, is impossible to fight into, and you talked about that last fight about how Cyan all of a sudden... briefly in a supply lead, now massively in a supply lead. 11 workers up, 92 army supply at 84. Those storms had no business being as good as they were.
Yeah, and the map is really MLG as well, kind of like split in the blue and red. It's, you know, before it was all blue, and we looked at the state after the fights, and it's like, yeah, Oliveira is still like very far ahead. You just look at the map and you can tell, right? But now, I mean, it looks pretty even on the map. The supply favors Cyan. The only problem is he added 2 more Templars. I love this guy. I mean, because the storm has been paying off, right? Like the EMP has not been landing properly here for Oliveira. The Colossus are gone. A lot of the tech units are being reset in this engagement. So if you're Cyan, you gotta keep remaking those. This time around, he's remaking Disruptors. And honestly, I don't have that much faith in Disruptors these days. But you know, everything that he's been doing has been working out. So I'll just shut up and watch.
Yeah, you know, I feel like I would really like to see him move back into Colossus play. There are no Vikings anymore, right? It is just Liberator play, and Disruptors against Liberators, even before the nerf, were not the best move. So you feel like you'd like to see that. Stalker's warping in, though, as this drop arrives. Target fire, no, not getting the Medivacs down quickly enough. So this does unload, and it feels like at this point we might have to see a recall here. Scans get dropped. DTs actually... they're shredding. Who cares about the scans? DTs shred everything. This drop is totally handled. What am I even saying, Cats? Cyan knows what's up.
Yeah, that was great with the DTs. The scan was a little bit late, or else, I mean, you're right. It would have required at least another set of warpins, and there would have been a little bit of leftovers. On the side of Cyan, he could have focus fired the medevac that was already a little bit bruised, like at half HP. He knew what was coming, so there was a chance that he killed that and maybe killed like 2 or 3 units before they unload, which would have been really nice. Not the case. Disruptors are gonna try to zone off, but their hard counter in the ranged liberators are already here. So, yeah, again, I don't love the disruptor choice here.
I mean, I do love this random adept. I think from much earlier in this game that's getting pretty significant damage. Here's disruptor shots. They're gonna try to find value, but Oliveira loses 3 Marauders. Okay,
That's huge.
Very nice. I was gonna say, I just back up, let your Liberators do the work, but apparently not, as now Stalkers deal with the Liberator on the north side. A couple random Zealots find their way in, but I mean, Zealots against Planetary, good luck there. I am worried about Cyan though. For everything that's happened, this incredible comeback that he's made, you talked about it, disruptors against this number of ranged Liberators, Cats. You're just gonna get shoved back into a corner. It's really hard to establish position.
Yeah, you basically gotta catch them unsieged, and then you gotta jump on the army and like hope that that's enough. Kill the Liberators and zone off before the army can get in range to deflect. Whoa, what's going on there? That should not have happened. Bleeding a few too many units before the army can encroach onto the disruptors. I love, by the way, if you look at the vision of Cyan, like look at how many observers he has. Like he knows all the movement. It's so beautiful, actually. It's rare, even at the highest level, to have this much vision out on the map.
You do have to be careful, right? With nice sketch there on a Liberator. EMPs. This is not a spot that Cyan wants to be, though. Has to back up. You do have to be a little careful, Cats. When you build that many observers, disruptors already, they cost more supplies. Stalkers blink on top of this. This might. Oh no, he's kind of messing the fight up here. Just got caught in the on the move command.
Oh my.
I was gonna say this might be a really good fight for Cyan if he can knock those Liberators down, drop storms on top of the army, but instead he just loses so much here. And this base is now gone. I don't think. Well, I guess Stalkers are gonna blink on top of this, and the Liberators will fall, but it is not a cost-effective trade here in the slightest, Cat. And the Liberators here are still getting so much done.
Yeah, I mean the storm was good, but the rest of the army didn't really do their job. And now on the other side, there's gonna be a further punish from Oliveira, and this game that was looking so good for Cyan on the comeback is starting to look impossible. Now the Liberators are gonna siege on top of everything else. The bio is there to back them up. Stalkers are trying to do what they can to engage the Liberators, while the bio is not yet fully operational. And now, I mean, with the disruptor shots, maybe there's a chance, but now more units on the flank from Oliveira are gonna shut this down easily, and yeah, it looks like the world champion is gonna take game number 1.
Yeah, now with the EMPs on this army as well, Liberators are one-shotting Stalkers. They're just evaporating them. So Cyan, good job holding on, honestly, for 23 minutes when that game ended at 5 is really impressive. But Oliveira, it's the expected result. Takes game 1.
I guess. I mean, Cyan was a beast. He was supply blocked only for 30 seconds that entire game, despite of how scrappy it was. 29 seconds, in fact. So, I mean, he definitely played a great game up until the point that, those Liberators in that position, like you were saying, that was just not cost efficient at all on the bottom side of the map. So, really sad, right? Really sad because he almost had an incredible comeback.
Yeah, no, really. I started to believe, and it's funny, we're about 15 minutes into that game, and I'm starting to think about, hey, Cats, like, should there be a Sky Toss transition? It's awkward, Cyan might not have the money for it, but between the disruptor nerf and everything else, and it feels like that having it even just a couple Tempests might have been necessary, again, just to deal with that incredible Liberator count. Of course, it slows your army down, and they're not great against a ton of bio. But as we saw right there, you just get shoved into... Oliveira gets 10 Liberators. You get shoved into a corner, and ground toss often doesn't really feel like it cuts it.
Yeah, it really doesn't. So, yeah, I'm with you. I think Tempest could have been an answer for sure. I think Disruptors, man, they just don't land shots. Like, whenever I watch them, and they're so expensive for the supply, like, they've been nerfed in many ways over time, like smaller radius, and now, like, the supply nerf and whatnot, and when you account for like the number of observers that Cyan had as well, like his army ended up being pretty small, right? So you need the Stalkers technically to deal with the Liberators, but Stalkers are not great damage output against the bio otherwise, so you don't really want them unless you need them type thing. So Yeah, I mean, the Storms were really the MVP there. Despite the presence of Ghosts very early on from Oliveira, he found great Storms time and time again. So I would like to see him rely on that a little bit more. I thought when you said Colossus, switch back into Colossus after the Vikings were dead, that was a good idea as well. But yeah, it didn't work out for Cyan. I mean, he did his best. Yeah, his best was pretty good, just not good enough by a tiny bit.
Yeah, I think that is the story. I mean, there's a reason that Oliveira is the world champion. There's a reason that we don't expect Oliveira to ever lose one of these regionals. And if he does, it would be a big story. But, Cats, you know, I have a really important question for you as we get ready to move into game 2. You know the map. What's your... How do you call this map?
Alcioni.
Alcioni. We make Rainer mad by mispronouncing some Italian. Is the fun story, by the way. So I looked this up as we're going to get into the game in just a second. Alcyone and Alcyone are both correct, depending on if you're talking about the star system or talk about the Greek myth of Alcyone and Charax, who were...
Are you telling me that the star system is not named after the Greek myth?
Yes, but the star system's American English, so the people that named it pronounced it Alcyone. Anyway,
did the people that name it pronounce it Alcyone, or did other people who read what they named it pronounce it? Because you don't name a star system and mispronounce it. I feel like, right? It's like you if you're gonna name, it's like hey, you discovered this star system or whatever, you get to name it. It's like, yeah, let me just Google some random name and oh, this sounds nice. Nah, you would know what it is. You would know how to pronounce it. I mean, you would, right? Certainly. Let's give him more credit, DMO.
Yeah, but like, you know, just because I would do it doesn't mean that everyone would go for it. But one thing that everyone can go for is this player in the upper right, down a game, Cyan.
And in the bottom left-hand side, it is his opponent, the world champion, the normal man. He would do it. He would actually Google how to pronounce Alcyone. It's Oliveira. Or is it Alcyone? I forgot it already.
So if you go by the myth, right, which is, by the way, it's the term where we get halcyon days, which are apparently technically like a 10-day period right around the winter solstice where the weather's good, apparently. But, you know, like those good old days, effectively. If you go off that one, it's this Alcyone and Charax. It's this husband and wife who were punished, at least according to some versions of the myth, for having a relationship that was too good, and Zeus got jealous, so he turned them into birds and said, "Now you're far apart. You gotta migrate over winter, and that's how you're gonna get close to each other." So from that myth, you know, it's Alcyone. But the star system, at that point, I guess it had been translated over. I don't. Yeah. So both are technically correct, Cats. That's the important thing here.
Actually, you're like, when I Google the star system Alcyone, it's they like Google says Alcyone to pronounce it Alcyone. Exactly. Like I click on it and it says Alcyone, but they gotta be wrong, because if it is based on the Greek myth, then they would have Googled it, and when they Googled it, it would have said Alcyone. You know what I'm saying?
If they named that star system before Google, though.
That could be it, and they didn't enlist anyone Greek in the team, or the Greek person was super pissed off. There we go, lifting up the supply depots. We've warmed up.
And as we talk about warming up here, Cats, and talking about, you know, Greek myths and everything else, have you heard of the myth of the 2 Cyclone opener before even the command center's done?
I've heard about it. It's do you like that myth? How does it end? Is it tragedy?
I think it depends on how Cyan decides to open up, and certainly the myth of the 2 Cyclone opener against an Oracle is a little bit of tragedy for the Protoss player here, Cats. You build more of them, and what in the world can a Cyan player go for?
Yeah, we'll find out. It is Alcyone, and you're talking about Cyan here. He could have maybe tucked into the little pocket there, where the unit is effectively invisible. Did it?
Yeah, no, certainly. But for now, I mean, there's one Adept. It's dead. Second one is going to go down we're going to have to pop an overcharge for this. The Cyclones do so much damage. And more right now we're at 2 Cyclones. We're going to go up to 4 very quickly. Shield battery overcharge now pop, but it's a temporary state of execution at best. And now, I mean, where's it? Or I understand why you don't send the Oracle back home, because it's not a lot of it's just going to die. But Oracle's against, I mean, actually here, wait a minute. This is actually getting pretty decent damage, but does it bounce out? On the other side, actually, as well, a Cyclone goes down. I mean, Cyan's still kind of dead. He's still in a horrible spot, but it's something. It is a decent response, I guess.
Drill. Hello? He could have drilled. He could have trapped a couple of those Cyclones. Now the Stalkers pop up, and maybe they can do something. Not the best target firing. Has to disengage, which is wise there, because that Stalker would have been kited to death while it attempts at some sort of greed. The ramp is going to offer him some protection, but not for long, and these Cyclones are still alive. One of them will go down to a pro pool, and the other one should get trapped eventually, if that. I mean, yeah, just run away, wait for your Stalkers. But yeah, this is disaster. It was a tragedy all along.
Well, you know, Kat, the only difference between a comedy and a tragedy, at least according to the Greeks, it's not about how it's not really about how, it's not about the tone, but specifically it's about whether the hero dies or not. It's if the hero dies, it's a tragedy. If the hero doesn't die, it's a comedy. And well, our hero Cyan absolutely died. So you're right, it's a tragedy. Oliveira, 2-0.
Actually, I thought it was a comedy because my hero's Oliveira, not Cyan.
Ah, okay. So a tragic comedy. That
was fucking funny, in fact.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I just feel bad for Cyan there. You talked about build order counters, and that one's up there, right? You open Stargate. This build is the reason why I thought when we had the new patch drop, this is why I thought Stargate openers were totally dead. Because you reactor out Cyclones, you have a couple Oracles, they die so fast. Like, it's just good luck, right? It's almost impossible to defend. And
it doesn't help that you open the Adepts as well, right? Adepts are just not it against the Cyclones. Like, they're just gonna get kited forever. They don't do a lot of damage. Like, whereas Stalkers, they actually, you know, like every volley does a decent chunk of damage against the Cyclones, and the range is a little bit more competitive to where the Cyclones have to be careful. Like, the Stalker can actually keep up a little bit better without the need for a shade to close the distance, right? So Stalkers are definitely better than Adepts against Cyclones, and yeah, that's part of it, I think. The Oracle did good on the other side.
Yeah, I mean, Oracles against Terran get generally about 0 workers, maybe 1. So getting 3 or 4 was really nice. But yeah, no, Cats, you're right. Adepts, good luck catching anything. They don't do much damage. And Cyclones, yeah, they're made of paper. They have 110 HP. They've got that armored tag. Stalkers do shred them, which is really funny, right? Because Cyclones were designed to allow for Terran to have a mech option against Protoss, and then Stalkers, like any sort of Blink Stalker opener, annihilates it. So I don't know how... that doesn't really seem to jive, but one thing, Cats, that really does jive is Game 3.
Some of your intros are just... like, you just say the last word, and then Game 3. It's like, yeah, it does jive, Pio. And here we are, and where we are is Golden Aura. And in the bottom right-hand side, his name is Cyan, but he's playing red. How weird is that?
Checkmate, atheists.
Checkmate, atheists.
And the upper left in the blue, up to Oliveira.
Closer to a Cyan color in the blue.
True. I mean, technically, there is like a Cyan color that you could spawn in on, but no, it's got to be red
illegal.
and
blue. Yep. It's illegal, sadly. Like, yeah, I wish that kind of rule could be bended, but yeah, like the admins sometimes, you know, like it's good to have admins that are very admin-y admins, and they're like, nope, the rules are the rules. But sometimes it's like, do we really, like, you know, could you just let Cyan be Cyan instead of blue? Nope.
Okay. Yeah, here's the thing, though. You say that as if you've never cast a ZVZ where players are playing pink and red. And you're just trying desperately to see the difference.
I'm saying, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It's Cyan instead of blue for Cyan. You know, like Cyan, you still can tell Cyan and red apart just fine.
That's fair. I'll buy you that one. But man, there are some color combinations that are just nigh impossible to tell the difference in matchups where it's just horrible. We've been there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I like the yellow and the orange are equally bad, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Although the fun thing is, like, yellow, specifically, the color yellow you get, like, if you have the mod installed, right, so you get the better colors, the color of yellow you get, or the color of gold you get, varies by map, because the lighting's different. And for some reason, map lighting impacts the way the overlay looks, too, which I don't properly understand.
Really?
But yeah, like, you'll notice on there's some maps where like the gold color, if you're playing on it, the color looks very washed out, very pale yellow. On some maps, it's very gold. And it depends, I guess, based on map lighting, which is weird, right? That map lighting impacts the overlay, but hey, that's how it works.
Yeah, I had no idea that's how it works. That's wild. Adept opening again. I mean, this man is brave to say the least. Just got destroyed going for the Adept. Gonna still stay faithful, but this time around there's no Cyclone opening on the side of Oliveira, do Brazil, and instead he did the very tucked in CC, where it can get spotted if a unit goes up the ramp, but it can't be poked at from like stalkers or units nearby it. So maybe anticipating an opening like we saw from Firefly earlier, where there's like a proxy gateway of sorts. So Oliveira seems to just be playing a little bit safe in this game number 3. With a 2-game lead, I think that's perfectly fair.
And you know, honestly, I really like what Cyan's doing now. On top of this, he goes for the exact same build 2 games in a row, which might sound idiotic, right? Like, why would you do that? But it's the mind games, right? On this understanding that Oliveira would never expect him to do the same thing twice in a row, especially when it gets absolutely annihilated in game 2. So maybe this time, maybe we get the damage we're looking for. But I mean, look at what Oliveira's got on the other side. Cloaked Banshee's on the way. We got more tech. It's not Cyclones, but it still represents a lot of threat.
It represents a lot of threat, but it's going to get spotted as well by this Oracle potentially. So, I mean, he's got that going for it. And the Oracle also has Revelation for the Cloak. So, yeah, it's a lot of tech, but not that amazing of a tech against what Cyan is doing. He's going to see it all. He's going to get some SCVs for his troubles. I mean, I saw a couple of Marines. There's 7 somewhere as they are now coming back. The Mule gets taken down, which is sadly the worst possible target this time around as it was about to expire. That is the risk that he took in going for that Mule. Still, very good damage. 3 SCVs, knows what the army composition looks like, knows what the tech looks like, and you're right. I mean, this could have been a moment where it's like, whoa, like what are you doing, you idiot? But that would have only happened if Oliveira had opened the same way with the Cyclones and killed him again, right?
No,
because
absolutely.
he didn't. He's a genius.
Exactly, and it's working out really well here. We got Phoenix on the way as well, so consistent anti-air. The one thing you're worried about is maybe a Revelation. Oh. Okay, Oliveira here. He's going for a 2-base push, so SCVs are going to get pulled. Marines, tanks, Vikings, Banshees, all put together. And that Banshee on the right side, do we only have 1? Yeah, only a single Banshee. It's just with the army. So this idea of getting out a Phoenix and all this stuff, not nearly as great with all the bio. We're going to probably, I mean, we're going to see bunkers go down, I would think, as stasis.
Oh, I love this. I love this. Oh, the stasis gets spotted regardless, but I love what Cyan did there to protect his stasis from the Hellion. He put his units forward so that the Hellion wouldn't run forward and try to like activate the stasis on his own, because he recognizes he needs it here. I mean, he doesn't have enough just yet. He wants to protect the shield battery, which is a little bit ambitious. And I do love the move here from Oliveira that you mentioned as well, not to go for the second Banshee despite having already invested a lot of time into that Cloak. Because now, I mean, Cyan has a lot of Phoenix, or a couple of Phoenix at least, that are not going to provide him much value. One more on the way, and maybe that allows him to engage some of the tanks. But with bunkers here, it's a very difficult break out for Cyan, as a lot of those units in the left are also going to take extra damage. This looks horrible, Dio.
Dude, that Immortal was delayed at 99.9% completion. It's out now, but there's nothing really much to buffer for it anymore. We got missile turrets here. This bunker rush. I mean, this looks like the back of a box, right? This is, yeah, Cyan's just dead. Oliveira 3-0s him.